Fertility 1-to-1, clearing the air around fertility conversations. Let's talk. Today's conversation is on surrogacy with Dr. Gajendra Tomar, a renowned fertility and IVF specialist at Indore Infertility Clinic. When should a couple consider surrogacy? Like, what are the medical indications for surrogacy?
There has to be a medical indication to necessitate gestational surrogacy. For example, if there is a problem with the uterus, either an absent uterus or an abnormality in the uterus, which makes the woman unable to carry a child, that can be one indication. The other indications can be that suppose a couple has undergone repeated IVF cycles and has not been successful. So repeated IVF failures is also an indication for surrogacy. Repeated pregnancy losses, so somebody becomes pregnant but loses the pregnancy again and again and undergoes repeated pregnancy losses or miscarriages or abortions, that also is an indication for surrogacy. Some of the other indications may be like there's a medical condition because of which the mother is unable to carry the child, and the medical condition is life-threatening for the woman herself. For example, if somebody has undergone a renal transplant and is on immunosuppressants, and if she becomes pregnant, her medical condition might worsen. Or suppose she has a heart condition because of which the cardiologist or the heart specialist has told her that if you become pregnant, it may be life-threatening for you. So these are the indications or the medical reasons for which a couple or a woman can avail the facilities of surrogacy.
Is there any congenital abnormality for which surrogacy is usually suggested?
Abnormalities of the uterus can either be acquired or congenital. Acquired is like if somebody undergoes a hysterectomy because of some disease of the uterus like fibroids or adenomyosis. Some uterine conditions can be congenital, like congenital absence of uterus, Mayer-Rokitansky-Kustner-Hauser syndrome, or what is commonly known as MRKH syndrome is one such example wherein the uterus is congenitally absent and therefore the woman is unable to carry a child. There are other congenital defects like unicornuate uterus or very small uterus or hypoplastic uterus, or a bicornuate uterus wherein there are two horns but both the horns are very small and therefore the woman cannot become pregnant. So these are some congenital conditions of the uterus. Yes, there are congenital conditions which basically the only option for such women left is either surrogacy or adoption.
So can a couple opt for surrogacy if they already have one child?
Surrogacy currently is limited to couples who are childless. That is, they do not have a child or children of their own. The only exception to this is if the child that they have is suffering from an illness which has no cure. It is only in that situation that the couple can apply for surrogacy. Otherwise, generally, surrogacy is only for childless couples.
Another concern which most of the intending couple have is that after a child is born through surrogacy, what does the birth certificate of the child mention in the mother's name section?
The mother's name will be the intending mother's name. The surrogate's name is not mentioned on the birth certificate as per the current law. So it is both the intending mother and the intending father's name who will be on the birth certificate, and there will be no other name.
So this is one of the fears that most of the intending couples have, that can a surrogate mother withdraw her consent for surrogacy after pregnancy?
The surrogate mother can withdraw her consent for embryo transfer before the procedure of embryo transfer itself. But once the embryo transfer has been performed and once the surrogate is pregnant, then the only indication for discontinuation or termination of pregnancy can be taken by the medical team. So it is the medical team who will decide, not the surrogate. So if the surrogate decides one fine day after becoming pregnant that she does not wish to continue this pregnancy, she cannot do that. She does not have the right to discontinue this pregnancy, which is otherwise medically fine, and she will be liable for prosecution because that is what the contract has stated. So the surrogate cannot discontinue pregnancy on her own free will.
Is there any age criteria for the intending couple or a person or a couple who wants to undergo surrogacy?
Age limits have been defined according to the current Surrogacy Regulation Act, in which the intending woman is between the age of 23 to 50 years. 50 years at the time of the procedure being done, and the intending male is between the ages of 26 to 55, 55 being the time of performing the procedure. So the upper limit for the woman is 50 and for the man is 55.
If somebody wants to become a surrogate mother, is there an age limit for her?
So the age of the surrogate has to be between 25 to 35 years at the time of embryo transfer for the surrogate mother.
So doctor, we have heard that a surrogate mother needs to be insured. So what kind of insurance is needed for a surrogate mother?
As per the new Surrogacy Regulation Act, which has been introduced in 2021, the intending couple or woman has to provide insurance which covers all the medical needs of the surrogate mother for a period of 36 months. The insurance being provided by an IRDA approved insurance company.
How many attempts of embryo transfer can we perform on a surrogate?
So the current law states that 3 embryo transfers can be performed, or 3 attempts of embryo transfer can be performed on a surrogate mother.
So how many embryos can we transfer on a surrogate?
Ideally, only 1 embryo should be transferred to the surrogate. It is only under special circumstances that up to 3 embryos can be transferred as per the law, and this should be best discussed with your fertility specialist.
So do surrogates stay in surrogate houses during surrogacy? Like, who takes care of their nutritional requirement?
So some centers practice this way of doing surrogacy, in which they make surrogate houses and the surrogates live in those houses or apartments. But we personally do not do that at Indore Infertility Clinic. Our surrogates usually live within a radius of about 3 to 5 kilometers. They live in their own homes. They live with their own family, with their own children who are usually studying in schools nearby where they live. So the concept that we follow is that we do not uproot our surrogate women or surrogate mothers from their own surroundings where they are more comfortable. As far as maintaining nutrition and antenatal care during pregnancy, what I usually say is they have carried their own children before successfully. They have children of their own, and they know how to conduct themselves during antenatal period. And to monitor them, we do see them frequently during the antenatal period. They have twice monthly visits during their entire antenatal period, wherein their weight and all their parameters like hemoglobin and all those things are measured. So you don't have to uproot these women from their natural surroundings into some artificial zone specifically designed for surrogacy, and they can take very good care of themselves in their own surroundings. We do not recommend surrogate homes for surrogate mothers.
What is the relationship between citizenship and surrogacy in India as per the law? So I have read that only Indian citizens can avail surrogacy. Is this true?
Surrogacy has been restricted to either Indian citizens or overseas citizens of India, who are also known as OCI card holders.
So doctor, can a single woman opt for surrogacy using donor sperms?
As long as the single woman is of Indian origin, she is between the age of 23 to 50, she is either a divorcee or single or widowed, yes, she can avail surrogacy with donor sperm. You do need to keep in mind that suppose somebody is married, separated, but is not legally divorced, such a person cannot avail surrogacy till she has the complete documentation regarding the proceedings of divorce. So yes, a single woman with donor sperms can avail surrogacy, but with certain conditions as mentioned before.
Can a single man opt to become a father using surrogacy with donor eggs?
So unfortunately, single men can now not apply for surrogacy, whether they are single, divorced, or they belong to the LGBT community. Unfortunately, according to the current rules, they cannot apply for surrogacy.
How much does surrogacy cost? What is the tentative cost that any couple should be looking into?
So the cost of IVF is what you should be looking at first of all. The cost of IVF it's going to be different in different cities. In a metro, for example, in a bigger city, the cost of IVF will be somewhere around 3 to 4 lakh rupees, whereas in a city like Indore, probably the cost would be somewhere between 2 to 3 lakh rupees. So that would be the cost of IVF. That would be the first heading that you should be thinking about. The second would be the cost during the antenatal care of the surrogate mother. So suppose you were pregnant yourself, how much would it cost during your pregnancy and at the time of childbirth, during delivery, the cost of the child born in terms of neonatal care. So how much would that be? So in a city like Indore, usually 9 months of pregnancy along with delivery and with basic neonatal care, the cost is around 1.5 to 2 lakh rupees during that period of 9 months to 10 months. So that's one cost that you should consider. The third is the legalities or the forms and the insurances and all those things before actually proceeding for surrogacy. So that would be actually the first cost that you would be looking at. And the experience that I've had with all this is that I usually quote around 50,000 to a lakh of rupees for all legal fees and the insurance and all those things, getting all the investigations done for the surrogate and the intending mother and the semen analysis of the husband and all that. So that expense is between 50,000 to 1 lakh rupees. So all in all, we usually say that whatever your IVF costs, this will cost about a lakh more. That's what we usually quote. In a city like Indore, we usually say that surrogacy costs somewhere between 5 to 6 lakh rupees.